Elon Musk demanded that all federal workers justify their jobs. That's where we're starting the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. It's Monday, February 24th. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. On Saturday, 2.3 million federal employees began receiving an email with the subject line, "What did you do last week?" It came from the Office of Personnel Management. It asked government workers to describe what they did last week in 5 bullet points. On his social media platform X, the president's billionaire advisor Elon Musk said that failure to respond would be considered a resignation, although the actual email didn't say that. It followed a post from President Donald Trump saying that Musk should, quote, get more aggressive. Musk's Doge team has been leading massive cuts to government. But this latest email blitz has been met with confusion and some resistance, particularly at defense and intelligence agencies. Several agency leaders told their staff not to reply to the email. Meanwhile, Trump has continued to rail against the federal bureaucracy. Here he is speaking at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Maryland on Saturday.
Now, we have a very corrupt group of people in this country, and we're finding them out. We're removing all of the unnecessary, incompetent, and corrupt bureaucrats from the federal workforce. That's what we're doing.
Musk's team has said its cuts to federal grants, contracts, and staffing have saved $55 billion. But a Washington Post analysis found that number was inflated. You can find a link to that analysis in today's newsletter. Find that, as always, in our show notes. President Trump announced that a conservative podcaster would be the FBI's deputy director. That's number 2. Dan Bongino is a former Secret Service agent and New York police officer who has built a media empire by adopting pro-Trump views. That includes debunked claims about the 2020 presidential election being rigged. Trump made the announcement yesterday. Bongino is an unusual pick. The deputy takes the lead on day-to-day operations at the agency. Typically, appointees have had long careers as FBI agents before assuming the role. The appointment may add to concerns about the lack of experience among those running the country's top law enforcement agency. Since Trump's inauguration, at least 8 high-up FBI officials have been forced out. Number 3. Germany's conservative Christian Democrats won the country's federal election. Friedrich Merz declared victory last night as preliminary returns indicated his center-right party would win the largest share of seats in the Bundestag, Germany's parliament. That means Merz will likely be Germany's next chancellor, replacing a center-left government. Merz spoke about the need for Germany to gain more independence from the U.S., but that's only part of the story of Germany's elections. The far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, party surged into second place. Both Elon Musk and Vice President J.D. Vance have been vocal supporters of the AfD. Its success is a sign of the times in Europe, where far-right parties once on the fringe have gone mainstream. But the establishment parties have said they will not form a coalition with the AfD. Number 4. Today is the 3rd anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In the past 3 years of war, more than 10 million Ukrainians have been displaced, and at least 150,000 Ukrainians and Russians have been killed, although that is nearly certainly an undercount. About 20% of Ukrainian territory is under Russian control, and the U.S. has spent over $65 billion on military aid to Ukraine. That aid is now in doubt, though, as President Trump has attacked Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and drawn the U.S. closer to Russia, even falsely blaming the war on Ukraine. That has put Ukraine and Zelensky under increasing pressure. The Post is reporting that Ukraine and the Trump administration are nearing a deal to hand Ukraine's mineral resources to the U.S. in exchange for continued support. Zelensky has asked for a meeting with Trump before any decisions are made. Nearly 100 people have contracted measles in Texas and New Mexico. That's our fifth story. More than 2 decades ago, measles was declared eliminated in the U.S. That meant the disease had not spread domestically for more than 12 months. It was achieved by widespread immunization campaigns after the measles vaccine became available in 1963. But now, the potentially life-threatening disease is spreading rapidly in Texas and New Mexico. Most U.S. measles cases this year involved people 19 and younger and those without a confirmed vaccination. The disease is most threatening to children under 5. The national vaccination rate for measles has dropped in recent years, particularly during and after the coronavirus pandemic. If you're not sure what vaccines you got as a child, we link to some tips in our newsletter about how to find out. The real problem with black plastic may not be what you think. That's number 6. Last year, a study found that black plastics used in kitchen utensils and sushi trays could expose you to toxic chemicals. The news went viral, but then the study's authors issued a correction to address a miscalculation. That caused many people to question whether black plastic was really as dangerous as they thought. But experts say that the debate over the study and over the use of black plastic kitchen utensils misses the point. They argue that the so-called safe level of flame retardants in black plastics is based on old science that doesn't account for how different chemicals accumulate in the body. The problem is not whether a single black plastic spatula can exceed the safe level, but whether any level should be considered safe. Researchers are pushing the government to look at exposure to flame retardants from several sources, not just black plastic. But progress has been slow, and many people still show evidence of toxic exposure. And at number 7, weight loss drugs aren't just slimming waists, they're also shifting the economy. Roughly 16 million people, or 6% of American adults, are taking drugs like Ozempic, Mounjaro, and Wegovy. And according to one analysis, that number could increase to 60 million people by 2028. The shift is resulting in all sorts of interesting consequences. One potential impact is a big economic boost. Experts say that if the expected increase in people taking these drugs happens, GDP could be boosted by 1%. That's several $1 trillion. The analysis was based primarily on the idea that healthier people mean a healthier workforce, and in turn, lower healthcare costs. But it also includes changes in how people spend their money on food, clothing, exercise, and vacations. Studies show that users of these drugs are spending less at coffee shops and fast food restaurants, and more on fitness and higher quality foods, including lean meats, whole fruits, and vegetables. You can find the breakdown of this analysis in our newsletter today. Just follow the link in our show notes. All right, you're all caught up. If you like the podcast, this is the week you should join an elite group of well-informed citizens by becoming a Washington Post subscriber. It's the best way you can support everything we do at the Post. And right now, you can get a great deal, just $29 for your first year of a digital all-access subscription. Head over to WashingtonPost.com/subscribe to get it done. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.